So, today we welcome our own RIos to speak to us about the Greek philosopher Epicurus and the philosophy of Epicureanism that's attributed to him. Alex has been a member of the Red Bank Humanists since its earliest days, over 13 years ago. He's been on our board of directors for roughly half that time. However, like many of us, he had to discover the philosophy of humanism as an adult. Alex was raised to be an evangelical Christian of the old earth creationist Pentecostal variety. He arrived at secular humanism around the age of 29 after reading the works of Paul Kurtz, who is a leader, or was, I should say, recently. He passed away a few years ago, but he was a leader of the secular humanist movement, a prolific writer, publisher, and organizer, and he's the one who came up with, or at least edited and shepherded these affirmations of humanism that we have at the welcome table and up here on the board as a, at least, rough statement of the values that we hold as humanists. Again, you don't absolutely have to agree with every one of them. It's not a creed. You don't have to recite them. You don't have to memorize them. But they're there for the taking. Okay, so back to Alex. Okay, yes. So Alex, he's in addition to being a real proponent of Paul Kurtz, he's been fascinated by the ancient Greek philosopher Epicurus, and Epicurus is recognized by humanists around the world as one of the earliest thinkers to combine the three key features of the humanist philosophy, and that is the rejection of divine influence, a materialistic explanation of reality, and a morality centered on human cooperation and happiness. Now, Alex has studied and reflected on Epicureanism for many years, and we're happy to have him share that enthusiasm for this forebearer of humanism. Please give a warm welcome to Alex Rios.
Good. How you doing? Thank you very much. Happy Mother's Day. And not only to the mothers, but to all the women that are here, that are not here, they're far, and they have passed away. Eric said a lot already. A forebearer to humanism. I was going to try to prove that to you. So, you'll still get a little bit of that. Just the first slide right here. Augustine of Hippo kind of stamped out all the philosophical schools, and that was kind of the end of the Epicureans, the Stoics, the Neoplatonists. Everybody was kind of reduced down to hiding away. But let's get going right at the beginning. So this is my summary. This is my opinion, and I think it's right, of course. There's a popular pre-Christian philosophy that is very similar to secular humanism. Some people consider it even a sect of humanism. It was around for 600 years, all around the Mediterranean Sea, every nation. It taught that we have the tools. We as human beings have natural faculties to enjoy life. As long as we let's see if I can make this slide go into slide mode. I want this to go into slide mode. Slideshow button.
Yeah. From current slide.
Oh. Okay. Oh. Alright, you don't see that. Let me see my tips. As long as we avoid the traps set by priests, astrologers, numerologists, diviners, fatalists, and philosophers that say that nothing can be known, like Aristotle and Socrates especially. As long as we embrace a naturalistic outlook and scientific method and learn about physics of the smallest and physics of the largest and the events in life that alarm us. And as long as we study human nature, its desires, its needs, its biases, and prejudices. And I feel like there's an item missing here. Is it showing right?
go back up.
No.
Is this complete?
Okay. No, it's fine. And
And the next one's pretty. Is that the last one?
I don't know. I feel like there's something clipped there, but it doesn't matter. We'll touch on them all. All right. So this is a summary of Secular Humanists. About 9 years ago, I had a talk here. It was really extensive. It was about 15 pages worth of stuff. And I crammed it all into one slide. So this is written by Paul Kurtz, and he's the father of secular humanism. And he wrote that the biological foundation for humanism would be lust for life and reason. Lust for life, wanting life. He talked about the ethical methodology, he talked about the excellences, and the excellences he included joyful living. In fact, he had this phrase called bursting at the seams. He had talk about common moral decencies and the virtues, which are so many to enumerate that I'm not going to. Freedom from fear, he talked about protection and equality and justice. He described secular humanism not as a philosophy so much, but as a eupraxiphy, and he called that practical wisdom. He encouraged, we encourage free inquiry in every field. We encourage the idea of non-created universe and no first cause in the scientific method and the naturalistic ethics and enjoying life's succulent flavors. And he considers humanism to be, once again, a practical wisdom, not an abstract, lost in the thoughts, but practical kind of wisdom. There's also a book by A.C. Grayling. It's called The Good Book. It's considered to be a humanist Bible. And it's got 2 books in it, mostly Genesis and The Good, and those 2 are very Epicurean. And there's some other mention of Epicurus in those books, in Consolations and Epistles. So this book, he took it together and he found ancient wisdom and he edited it a little bit here and there and so on, and it's kind of like a Bible, you know, and it's got like Genesis and all the books together in a Bible, and it's pretty good. Secular humanist philosopher Richard Carrier, author of Sense and Goodness Without God, he says, "We do not regard a joyous occasion as pointless just because it only lasts a day. Our lives are a joyous occasion. By existing and making ourselves something good, we give ourselves and each other, we create purpose. We create purpose. Purpose isn't given to us." He recommends reading the letter to Menuisius, which is Epicurus' letter on living a happy life. Another secular humanist philosopher and particle physicist, professor at the University of Colorado and also Hawaii. And he wrote a book on God and the atom. And here he talks about the history of atoms and how the church and religions and Christianity and the other philosophers were so opposed to the idea of atoms. Elementary particles. Elementary particles, they thought, were a big affront to God. Let's see what else I have to say here. That's it. Another book worth reading, there are several of these. If you go to Amazon, you can find books that are giving credit to the Epicureans for modernity. The Scientific Revolution, the rediscovery of Lucretius' poem spawned lots of philosophers and lots of philosophies. And the Scientific Revolution, according to several of these books, there's plenty of this is just this is not a rare opinion. This is everywhere. You can find it everywhere on Wikipedia. You can find it wherever you want. Another good reason to talk about this today is particle physicist Richard Feynman. He says that if there's one thing that must be preserved, that could be preserved, to bring a scientific revolution back if we lost all of science, there's just one statement. He says, "I believe it is the atomic hypothesis that all things are made of atoms. Little particles that move around in perpetual motion, attracting each other when they are a little distance apart, and repelling each other when they are squeezed together." Pretty important stuff, if you ask me. Not everybody's so friendly to science. Okay, so how did I bump into the Epicureans? I have lots of family that are Christians. And they like to quote ancient people with their wisdom and say, this guy said that, wow. And look at this. And this verse in this chapter says all this stuff. Science could have never predicted that. So, that kind of teased me out a little bit. And so I kind of took a look at, quick scan through all the pre-Christians' philosophy, so I can say, my philosopher's older, right? 300 years older. And so I went through some of the other philosophers like Aristotle, and there's not too much information on him, and he was an ineffective, happy person. Not so happy. He didn't really understand how to, the limits, party all the time kind of person, you know. Plato is not good at all. Plato is basically the source of, one of the largest sources of Christianity. He has a demiurge, which is just a fancy word for a creator. He believes in reincarnation, in perfect justice, supported astrology, numerology, and like I said, the church really used his stuff to build up Christianity and promote it. Diogenes was ruled out because poverty is not a virtue. Aristotle was ruled out again. Aristotle had good stuff. He came back from India. He went with Alexander the Great to India, and he came back with all these great biological treasures about all the animals and various behaviors and so on, and similarities to human beings. But the church took him up too. They found his philosophy was very, very, very useful. The Western civilization suffered through Aristotle's physics for a long time. And things could have gone smoother, could have gone better. RIos said we can't have knowledge, we can't have confidence, we can't have knowledge. Knowledge is just a joke, we don't know anything. So he's out. Because, you know, we know stuff, science works. Epicurus is in, you'll find out. Zeno the Stoic was out because he believed in logic over evidence. Logos, he had predestination. He said you should be virtuous even if it's going to hurt you. He said that desires and pleasures are bad. Chrysippus, the next Stoic, he said the soul survives death. He had really bad physics. Divination, omens, portents, evil should not be removed because, you know, things are the way they are, we shouldn't try that. Remove evil. He said emotions are like diseases, promoting apatheia, to be eradicated, and the body is to be discounted. Yeah. So he's out. So there's one guy over here, Democritus, and he was a predecessor. Epicurus was actually a Democritean for a whole bunch of years. And you try to find information on Democritus, and you bump into these two books. You pay a pretty penny for them. They're tiny, 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 and the sources of information on them come from the enemies of Democritus. So they're not even very well trusted. I tried. Democritus could not fit. So we need to talk about the Epicureans because to them emotions are extremely important, whereas the other philosophers were emphasizing logic and reason and discarding emotions, discarding instincts, discarding intuitions. You'll see that the Epicureans did not. And so they talked about pleasure and they talked about pain. And they said, if you're calm, you're being pleased. If you're relaxed, you're being pleased. It's a pleasure. Serenity is a pleasure. Contentedness is a pleasure. All of these things on the right side are a pleasure. All these things on the left side are pains. It doesn't matter if you're just fatigued or if you're all the way tense. It's a pain. And so emotions have this facet of being either pleasant or unpleasant. They have another facet of being activated or not activated. And the Epicureans called it, not activation, they called it intensity. Okay? If you're safe, you're being pleased. If you're comfortable, you're being pleased. If you're peaceful, you're being pleased. These are all pleasures. The Christian church kind of made the concept of pleasure a bad thing. You're embarrassed. Ooh, pleasure. Awful things, right? But it wasn't always that way. It wasn't always that way. So when I say pleasure, I might mean calm. If when I'm reading something, I read to you the word serene, you know that's a pleasure. If I read the word to you bored, you know that's a pain. If I bump into a word joyful or ecstatic or blessed, that's a joy. I mean, that's pleasure. And you're going to bump into a lot of these words all through this. All right, so I'm talking about Christianity. Christianity is a postponed enjoyment. You're not worthy of heaven yet. In fact, at some times in history, it went and it became a pain cult. We had the Dark Ages, all kinds of punishment, all kinds of inflicted on themselves because they thought they needed to make good with God, make themselves worthy. So let's just think about the opposite. Not people who hate pleasure, not people who enjoy it or claim that pain is a good thing. All right, so once again, back to forbidden fruit, the ethics of humanism. Paul Craig says, we believe in enjoying life here and now. It's one of our principles. So, he says, the present moment is intrinsically worthwhile. The capacity for enjoying life is an important excellence and manifests itself in hedonic and neurotic. Enjoy pleasure. It's a positive virtue. Theists have railed against the body, and there's a failure to appreciate hedonism. He considers it a disease of the soul. Yes, secular humanists use the word soul. Okay. Person with the joy of life can find pleasure, can feast, can drink heartily, can make love, read books, travel, listen to music, work for a cause, enjoy sports, poetry, and arts. Okay, so if we're past that, pleasure is not a bad thing. Let's get started. Okay? Here are shown a few of the Epicurean philosophers. There's a ton more. You can go to Wikipedia and just follow history for centuries. So just like humanists try to attempt to transcend gender, nationality, creed, and class, the Epicureans touched all these nations on the Mediterranean. It's about 6 centuries that they were around. Different estimates will be made. Some people will say 550 years. Some people will even go and say 700 years. So I just picked 6, all right? Some people say it stayed hidden, but Justinian definitely killed it with his universal, shall not be named religion. If you buy this book, The Epicurus Reader, here's a quick introduction. It says that Epicurus developed a philosophy deserving our respect and understanding. He was opposed and distorted. Epicureans almost never switched their allegiance to other philosophical systems. Kind of like once you convert out of your religion to secular humanism or atheism, whatever, you probably don't go back. Yeah. So there's a lot of commonality here. If you grab this book, The Swerve, How the World Became Modern, Stephen Greenblatt, his summary is, it's possible for human beings to live happy lives, but not because they think that they're the center of the universe, because they fear of God, because...
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you did. All right. Can you hear me? Yep. Unappeasable desire and fear of death are the principal obstacles. The obstacles can be surmounted. All speculation, all science, all morality, all attempts to fashion a life worth living must start and end with the comprehension of the invisible seeds of things, atoms in the void. And so the whole of Epicurean philosophy is developed based on elementary particle physics. And Let's go. God and the Atom, and the secular humanist philosopher Victor Stenger, particle physicist also. This is his Life of Epicurus. You see a lot of the ellipses. That's good. I did it. You see these double brackets because I wrote it in. All right. He says Epicurus was born on the island of Samos. Poor parents. His father was a school teacher. Back then, the public school system taught Platonism. Imagine your father teaches Platonism. Are you going to learn Platonism? Probably. His mother was a soul healer, and nobody really knows what that means. But lots of people like to speculate. After military service, 10 years studying under Nausiphanes, who was a student of Democritus. So he learned Platonism, he learned Democritianism, he moved to Ionia and studied the Peripatetic school, which is the Aristotelians. He lived in Ionia, surrounded by the other scientific philosophers. And he started his school, and he included women. Oh no, women? In our school? Okay, he developed a unique world system, and he repudiated most of the teachings of Aristotle, Plato, and the other philosophical schools of his time. He left 300 books. I'm not sure that any philosopher of his time wrote that many books. When we talk about books, we talk about multi-volume books. One volume included 37 books on natural phenomena. So, what do we have left?
How many of those still exist?
Exactly. So what do we have left about from all those books and so on? We have 3 letters written by Epicurus. The 3 letters are summaries, short summaries. You can read them in a very short time. We have the Epicurean inscription of Diogenes of Oinoanda, and he was an Epicurean too, and he built this huge wall in town, and on the wall he inscribed a lot of Epicurean philosophy. We have Torquatus in the 1st century with Cicero. Cicero had a lot of Epicurean friends, but he would never be claiming to, would not be an Epicurean himself. Of course, he was a politician, right? And he had to play the games and avoid the political and the religious consequences. And we have, of course, the most famous, Lucretius's poem on nature. And people describe it as an awesome poem, a life-transforming poem. I don't necessarily feel that way. I think science should be taught kind of like textbook style, and poetry is great and stuff, but the translations aren't as beautiful because it's a different language. The meanings of words change. The rhyming is gone. The rhythm is gone. It's still great to read. I don't want to discourage anybody from it. Okay, but the Epicurean had some kind of concept of the gods. What does Alex bring to us? We don't want to hear about any gods. Right? So, just before we get started, let me try to fix everything up. The Epicureans refused to call themselves atheists. Like David Silverman gave advice to us, if it's going to hurt you in your life, then don't publicize it. Peace and safety was their catchword. Okay. So the Epicurean gods are not gods in the modern sense of the word at all. They are not supernatural. They don't play any role in the lives of humans, except to those who like to enjoy imagining them. They don't manage our cosmos or the universe. They don't bestow blessings on the good or curses on the wicked. They don't play a role in ensuring justice. They don't need anything from us. They do not, whatever you can imagine, they do not the other thing that you can imagine, or the next thing. But for the sake of peace and safety, to be safe in their society, in their culture, go ahead and admire them. Use them as examples of what happiness is. Okay, so now I'm going to try to show you some examples that they were free from creators. It says, the universe was not created or controlled by any gods. It is absurd to argue that the divine nature created the world. There are too many things wrong to have been created with the gods, by the gods. Lightning and thunderbolts. We must, above all, be on guard against fables. They were free from predestination. And there are some branches of Christianity that say that we're predestined. Some people think that they're helpless to make changes in their life. They can't take control of their life. They can't affect. And the decisions that they make are just not going to help them reach their goals. So here's a few quotes from Epicurus against such things. Settings and eclipses must not be thought to be caused by a supernatural being ordaining or controlling these movements. The bright heavenly bodies are nothing but masses of fire. You must never believe that these masses possess divinity. Some men think that the celestial bodies are gods, and that these gods display wills and actions that are inconsistent with our anticipations of divinity. Anticipations is a key word, I'll explain it later. And then there are those who seek to predict the future from stars, predictions which some obtain from animals, arise purely by coincidence. If we abandon true reasoning, which means evidence-based reasoning, and renounce the effort to seek explanations that are both consistent with the evidence we can observe, and also consistent with similar phenomena we observe here, we place ourselves far outside the science of nature, and we fall headlong into fantasies and fables. Epicurus on dreams and visions and blessings. Ignorant astrologers who covet vain knowledge, these men assign imaginary causes to facts. They wish to leave the care and the government of the universe entirely to the gods. Why? Because they desire to flash prodigies in the eyes of the crowds. Dreams neither have a divine nature nor a prophetic power. The mental images we receive while sleeping may be untrue to the facts. Men who experience false visions, who are unable to understand how they are produced, and are understandably apprehensive. And they convince themselves that these visions were created by the gods. He says, the wise man does not believe that the gods give chance events to men. No blessings, no curses. It is pointless to pray to the gods for that which he has power to obtain by himself. Epicurus on religion does not make people moral. It is an error to argue that absent the restraint that comes when evil men fear the gods or fate, wickedness would have no limit. This is wrong, because wrongdoers are manifestly not afraid of the gods or the penalty of law, or else they would not do wrong. Men are not wise because they fear the gods. Few men among hundreds are conscientious because they fear the gods. Clear proof of the complete inability of religion to prevent wrongdoing is provided by the example of the Jews and the Egyptians. These nations, being among the most religious and superstitious of men, are the most vile. So what kinds of gods or religion will cause men to act righteously? Men are not righteous on the account of the gods, nor on the account of Plato's and Socrates' judges in heaven. We are thus left with the inescapable conclusion: why would not evil men who disregard the laws disregard and scorn fables even more? Oops. Oh, sorry.
I have to safeguard the confirmation.
Yeah. So the opponents of Epicurus said that his philosophy was effeminate. He said, you learned your philosophy from your mother. Yeah. Happy Mother's Day philosophy. So he had women in his schools. They were enrolled in the same curriculum. They could even achieve the rank of scholarch. is the highest grade teacher. We have Leontium, we have Battus of Lampsacus. You can go to Wikipedia and trace it forward and you'll find other women. And they were the scholars listed. Okay, so Epicurus says friends. Oh, mothers. Mothers say go play with your friends. Let's play on this mother's philosophy thing. Here we are with like-minded folks. And Epicurus says that it's a joy that survives even death. Our friends may die. And still, we have recollection of the joyous moments with them. And that can feed us. And that can help sustain us. And so this is the only tool that Epicurus says has this property, friendship. Nothing else has a higher property. Friendship is the highest tool that Epicureans, the most powerful tool that Epicureans have to ensure that they can enjoy life. So here's 2 slides. It's going to talk about friendship, the importance of friendship. This is a big issue because the Neoplatonists challenged the Epicureans, and they said that their friendship was not true, that they were just self-interested, that they only cared about themselves, only looking after their own pleasure. What did Epicurus say? He said, of all means to happiness that wisdom has devised, none is greater, none is more fruitful, none is more delightful than friendship. Not only did Epicurus command the importance of friendship through his words, but far more through the example of his life and his conduct. So this is Torquatus speaking at Cicero's, Cicero got all the philosophers together and says, defend your philosophy. And so, ironically, his friend, who was an Epicurean, his Epicurean friend Torquatus, stood up and said, I'll do it. And so these are Torquatus' words. This is the 1st century. He says, review the legends, you will barely find them 3 pair of friends. Yet Epicurus, in a single house and a small one, maintained a whole company of friends, united in the closest sympathy and affection. And this still goes on today in the Epicurean school. The Epicureans maintain that friendship can no more be separated from pleasure than can the virtues. Friends give confidence and a firmly rooted hope. So friendship is the most trustworthy preserver and also creator of pleasure for both our friends and ourselves. Friends are valuable. When things get tough, just knowing that they're there, just the idea of knowing that they're there, even before you ask them, the idea that there is somebody that you might be able to ask for help, relieves us of all kinds of trouble. So friendship affords us an enjoyment in the present, right now, here and now. Inspires us with hope, and it is not possible to secure uninterrupted gratification of life without friendship. Unless we love, nor to preserve friendship unless we love our friends as much as we are as ourselves. For we rejoice in our friends' joy, and we are equally pained by their sorrows. The wise man will exert himself as much for his friend's pleasure as he would for his own. And Epicurus said, the same creed that has given us courage to overcome all fear of everlasting or long-enduring evil, such as hell, after death, has discerned that friendship is our strongest safeguard in this present term of life. All right. That's all on friendship. So now you read the Epicurean literature, and they're talking about gods, and they're talking about souls and spirits, and you're like, what are they talking about? Why is Alex bringing this to us? So if you browse Martin Ferguson Smith's, there's a name, translation of Lucretius, he has an excellent introduction. This is a multi-page introduction. I think it's probably one of the better introductions of all the books that I've come across. Okay. In there, in his introduction, he says, the mind and spirit, the 2 components of the soul, are corporeal. Being parts of the body, they are born with it and die with it. Both are composed of particles which account for their extraordinary mobility. The spirit, the seat of sensation, is distributed throughout the whole body, all your limbs. The mind, the seat of thought and emotion. At death, both the mind and the spirit are dispersed at once, and there is no more sensation or consciousness. Book 3 is the nature of the mind and spirit and the proof of immortality. So we're talking about a different kind of spirit. We're talking about a different kind of soul, not the kind that Christianity has brought us. These words were common for the Ionian philosophers. When they spoke of soul, they were talking about material things, parts of your body. Your body has a soul in it, is what they said. So, if you read Lucretius' poem and you start reading, paying attention to what he's describing that the mind is, it's a material thing. And he talks about the spirit being distributed throughout the whole body. And you have a brain, and you have a nervous system. And paragraph after paragraph after paragraph after paragraph, he's explaining all the properties of what this spirit is, of what the soul is. And you cannot anything but conclude that he's talking about what we call today the nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is distributed throughout the entire body, the mind, and emotions are felt in the breast. And of course, modern science says that models that introduce immaterial elements into the human cognitive process have failed to produce any supporting evidence compared to dualism of the body, which means, this non-materialistic spirit kind of thing that we all read about as kids. And a reason that I avoided using words like soul and spirit for a lot of years here, maybe it's not so bad. So, the soul is the mind plus the spirit and is part of the body. Here's what the Epicureans say about the soul. The soul exists. And remember, to them, the only things that were real were elementary particle physics, elementary particles and bodies made by bindings. Chemicals and molecules and that kind of stuff. So, if they say that the soul exists, they mean it's made out of these molecules, chemicals and stuff. Because it acts and is acted on. It's composed of very fine particles and distributed throughout the whole structure. What we observe about the actions of the soul and its feelings, and about its quickness of movements, and about its processes of thoughts, from these we conclude that it is the chief cause of sensation. So, events occur in the world, they pop into your senses, your eyes, or your ears, or your nose, or your mouth, all orifices, and somehow they arrive at your mind. Let's see. The body acquires a share in the soul's capacities. That means your body can touch stuff and feel it. You open your eyes, instantaneously see. It's not like a computer that had to compute all these calculations and so on, and try to discern what it's looking at and so on, and it took forever. It's instantaneous. You open your eyes and you automatically see, and then you have some kind of instinctual reactions. And then you have emotions. And maybe later, if your brain, your subconscious brain, decides to get your attention, you start thinking about it through the slow, volitional, logical mind. At the bottom he says, the general idea of the soul being incorporeal and independent of the body is wrong. So this is 2,311 years ago when he started his school. He had all this stuff down. Some of it came from Democritus. 2,300. Do you think we have an intellectual or cultural legacy that can go back? Maybe we do. A lot of times people talk about it, well, this is just a new thing. What we're doing right here, secular humanism, it's just a new thing. Can we adopt an intellectual and cultural history from way back? Maybe. So this is my little bit of summary because, like I said, this is paragraph after paragraph after paragraph where he's describing this stuff. So I say, events occur in the world and are transmitted to our mind by our senses through our spirit. So senses, peripheral nervous system hits our mind. There's a two-part mind, an automatic mind and a volitional mind. The automatic mind does processing extremely fast, and the volitional, intentional, deliberate, logical, rational mind is very slow. So now the other philosophers are saying, instincts and emotions are worthless. We need to be rational. We need to be logical. And Epicureans are like, don't discount like the largest part of your brain. So as a consequence of sensations, the automatic mind generates what they call presentations, combines them with anticipations, and generates emotions which guide us to action and are felt. At a later time, the volitional conscious mind, I think I already said everything. Everything happens by particle interaction. Again, we're talking about molecules, we're talking about chemicals, we're talking about elementary particles. This is physics. So what's modern science say? There should be some particles, right? So today we know that calcium, sodium, and potassium particles mediate conduction across synapses. Once again, we're talking about the nervous system. Today we know that 3 molecules are exchanged by neurons to signal emotions. This is a model right here. This is not proven. You can find this on Wikipedia. It has credence as much as it can be tested in any other scientific model. The combination of these various chemicals, cause different kinds of emotions. And if you have serotonin, it gives you contempt and disgust. If you combine serotonin with dopamine, you get enjoyment and joy. If you combine noradrenaline with serotonin, you're feeling surprise. So far, this model seems to coincide, but it's not absolutely proven. It's on Wikipedia. It's considered a good model. For those of us who don't know about elementary particles, everything in the universe, every body, everything you can touch, is made out of molecules, which are made out of atoms, which are made of nuclei and electrons. The nuclei are made out of protons, the neutrons are made out of quarks, and our quarks, and our leptons, and bosons are the elementary particles. Epicurus made clear that he was referring to elementary particles. You didn't know, well, we don't know we don't know how much you know, we only have the summaries. But he said it clearly, I want to, and I intend to, and I'm referring to the elementary particles when I describe all the properties that I'm talking about. Again, you can go to Wikipedia, and you try to look this up. This is still a model that is being used by modern science. Of course, you'll find other models too. Lots of models fit into this category of dual process theory. And there's the automatic mind again, there's the volitional mind. The automatic mind has large capacity, low effort, non-logical, parallel, evolutionarily old means natural selection. We've kept it. Natural selection has not selected it out. It's associated and contextualized. And the small capacity, high effort, you have to work hard at it, being logical, serial, and the evolutionary recent-based, the rule-based, abstract logic part of the brain that allows sub-vocalization when you're talking to yourself. You're trying to solve a problem, you're talking to yourself, or you're imagining a conversation with somebody, trying to work things out, you're thinking how it might want to go. Oh, there you go, that's system 2. Not so bad, I think. So the Epicureans are fighting the Platonists. The Neoplatonists, Aristotelians, logic, and then after Epicurus died, the Stoic school came around, and they were logic. So Epicurus, what did he say about logic? He said, speculative logic over speculations. This is not reasoning over evidence. Logic over speculations. Helps me with no assistance either as a guide to conduct or as an aid to thought. He's talking about when you do a hypothetical situation, kind of thinking, what if this and what if do that? How is she going to do this? How are they going to do that? What are we going to do? What if this happens? That stuff, trying to predict the future and what you're going to do. And that doesn't work so great. He says, instead, natural philosophy, which is science. It's the old word for science. To be all-important, science explains us to the meaning of words, the nature of cause-effect, and the laws of consistency and contradiction. A thorough knowledge of the facts of nature relieves us of the burden of superstition, frees us from the fear of death, especially what happens after death, and shields us against the disturbing effects of ignorance. A knowledge of the things that nature truly requires improves the moral character. It is only by firmly grasping a well-reasoned scientific study of nature and observing Epicurus' canon of truth, that's a key word that I'll explain soon, that has fallen, as it were, from heaven, which affords us the knowledge of the universe. Only by making the canon the test of all of our judgments, always to stand fast in our convictions, undeterred and unshaken by the eloquence of man. Again, that was Torquatus' words. He was again defending against the Neoplatonists. What does modern science say? We're not very logical. Hundreds and hundreds of fallacies. Go to Wikipedia. Cognitive biases. I think there's about 150 cognitive biases just listed on this one page here on the left. Okay. That doesn't mean we should stop trying to be logical. That doesn't mean we shouldn't try to be reasonable. No, that doesn't mean that. We're not going that far. Okay, so once again, emotions. This is all from Wikipedia. There are many kinds of diagrams like this. This isn't the diagram. Psychology has many models to offer. These are the ones that kind of stick around, are still in contention. And just a reminder again, the things on your left are unpleasant. And our pains, the things on your right, are pleasures. And they act as guides. Every emotion that you have can be categorized as having some unpleasant qualities or some pleasant qualities to it. And it doesn't matter if there's minimal pleasant quality. Calmness is a pleasure. Okay? What does modern science say? When I was a kid growing up, being a boy, you're told, oh, don't be so emotional. Girls, they're not rational. They're not logical. Emotions are for girls. I don't know how many people hear about that. But men are supposed to be tough. Just toughen up. Yeah. You're cold. How are you going to toughen up? So modern science says emotions are a particular information system, a summary of the information about the environment, and an aggregate of a huge amount of data about a situation. They're indicators to interpret and use rather than to try to ignore or control. You may think that the best course of action is to suppress or ignore an intense emotion, like boys are taught to do. But why ignore an emotion that has evolved over thousands of years? Emotions are felt in your body. Epicureans got kind of that right. It's kind of felt. And are automatically and unconsciously create an emotional response. It's a good thing because we don't have time to deliberately think about all these things. It's a good thing it happens unconsciously. We just open our eyes and bang! Information has come into our brain and our instinctual reactions, our intuitions, our emotions are invoked. It's pretty powerful stuff. Okay, so the goal of Epicurean philosophy is to somehow make a happy life. How? You're going to make a happy life. You're going to study nature. You're going to study human nature. You're going to study nature around you. You're going to learn about everything as much as you can, so that way you can build or architect a life for yourself. Epicurus provides some foundational components. That's it. The rest is up to you. You need to build this life. So he says, you have to become wise. You have to learn from the consequences of your choices and your avoidances. You have to learn the consequences of your from decisions. You can also learn from other people. And you have to plan your life. If you plan your life in such a way, you should be able to avoid some trouble and make yourself wise. So what does the wise man do? If you were wise, you would look forward to the future, but find your true enjoyment in the present and be free from vices. Even though mental pleasures and pains arise from the body, remember we're really body, we're bodies. Does not preclude that mental pleasures and pains from being much more intense than those of the body. The body can feel only what is present, whereas the mind is also aware of the past. We can torment ourselves thinking about past. Or the future, we can torment ourselves worried about the future. We can become angry about the past, sad about the past. Just remembering the past and sad events has an emotional consequence on us. Thinking about the future has emotional consequences on us. Our sensation of pain can be enormously increased by mental apprehension of some evil. We see that mental pleasures and mental distress contribute more to our happiness or misery than even bodily pleasure or pain. Elated. Elated is a happy word. Delighted is a happy word. So we are elated by the anticipation of good things to come. We are delighted by the recollections of good things in the past. Fools are tormented by the remembrance of former evils. The wise man's memory is a pleasure. Through it they renew the good things of the past. We have both the power to obliterate our misfortunes and the power to summon up pleasant and agreeable memories of our successes. When we concentrate on the mental vision closely on the events of the past, gets sorrow or gladness follows. So we have choices about what to think about, especially in our free time. We don't have to go to work, we don't have to do this thing, we don't have to do the other thing. Maybe we're invited to a social gathering. We have choices to make. We have even choices about what to think about when we have a free hour, totally free. Things are not disturbing us. When the future is not disturbing us, when the present is not disturbing us, when the past is not a trouble to us. At those moments we have a choice. That's what he says. Some other advice. Yeah, okay. Something your mother might say, at least in Spanish. Avoid the vain desires. Learn from the consequences. Be wise. Advice from others. Wisdom is even more valuable than philosophy, Epicurus says. Wisdom. So learning from consequences and planning your life is even more valuable than philosophy. What was the most valuable thing? Friendship. Friendship is the most valuable thing. The second most valuable thing is wisdom in Epicureanism. All right, let's do a little bit of wisdom. He says, the great disturbing factor in man's life is the ignorance of good and evil. Remember that Bible that said knowledge of good and evil at that tree with the snake? Epicurus says ignorance of good and evil. Mistaken ideas about these rob us of our greatest pleasures and torment us with the most cruelest pains. Thus we need the aid of wisdom to rid us of our fears and our unnatural desires, to root out all the errors and prejudices, to serve as our infallible guide to attainment of happiness. Wisdom alone can banish sorrow from our hearts and protect us from alarm and apprehension. What's wisdom? Learning from our consequences, planning our lives. That is what he says, has all these attributes. Become a student of wisdom and you may live in peace and quench the glowing flames of vain desires that are the source of hatred, quarreling, strife, sedition, and war, and you render the whole of life embittered. The wise man prunes away all the rotten growth of vanity and error, can live contentedly. The wise man's desires are kept within nature's bounds, and he does not rely wholly upon the future. The wise man looks forward to the future, but he finds his true enjoyment here and now. The wise man is free from vices, which I'll get to later. Other advice your mom may give you. You have options. You have decisions to make. Plan. How to choose and avoid, how to make decisions. This is the advice that Epicurus gives us. He says, we must consider that some of our desires are given to us by nature, and some are vain and empty. Of the natural desires, some are necessary and some are not. Some are necessary to our happiness, some necessary if our bodies to be free from trouble, and some necessary for living. So some of our desires are given to us just to stay alive. Some of them are given to us just to be healthy. And then some of them are given to us so that we may be happy. That's what he says. We have to keep this in mind. Some things are important, some things are not important. Mother's philosophy. He who has a correct understanding of these things will always decide what to choose and what to avoid by referring to the goal of obtaining a body that is healthy and a soul that is free from turmoil. Since this is the aim, it is for the sake of living happily that we do everything we wish to avoid grief and fear. Once we have attained this goal, the storm of the soul is ended. The trouble in our head disappears. The storm of the soul, the trouble in our head. To this view of happiness, we refer every question of what to choose and what to avoid. What are the consequences of our choices? Are they going to lead to trouble? Are they going to lead to us reaching our goals? Hopefully our non-vain goals. Do not choose every pleasure whatsoever. At times, we pass over certain pleasures because we're smart. When difficulty is likely to ensue from choosing them, we think that certain pains are better than some pleasures, when a greater pleasure will follow them, even if we first endure for pain for a time. Why do we go to work? Even on days that we don't want to. Why do we mow the lawn? Why do we do all the things that we do that sometimes aren't so immediately pleasurable? We do them because in the long run, they bring an overcompensation for the pain that we took up at the moment, the temporary pain. At least that's what we should be doing. That's what we should be planning to do. We shouldn't just absorb pain just because somebody thinks that really wants us to, or that we'd be superior if we did. The only reason to accept pain is if it's going to lead to happy living. That's why we exercise. Who likes to go to the gym all the time? Yeah. But we do it, you know. We think it's worthwhile. It's a trade-off. Your mom might say if you're hungry, then eat. If you're cold, put on a sweater. Yeah. So there's this huge issue of controversy that Epicureans had with other philosophers, because Epicurus said that to the wise person, the removal of pain is a pleasure. And they said, wow, that's it? You just want to be like neutral? Huh. That's not real happiness. And Epicurus says, if you're a wise person, and everything is, all your natural and necessary desires are being met, and everything is cool, you would be a fool to not be happy. Make yourself smart. Look around the world and all the suffering that's going on, and you've got your needs met. Be smart. And just enjoy. You have a choice at that point in time. So the means of removal of various pains, such as hunger, thirst, cold, being threatened, you may want to flee or protect. And people think that things on the right column are the pleasures. The things that are not on the right column are not pleasures. Pleasure is an emotion that you have, a pleasant emotion that you have, a peace, a calm, a serenity, a happiness. And these things on the right are just tools. What are we really working for is for the pleasant emotion, or to get rid of the pain. So do not think it unnatural that when the body cries out, the soul cries out also. The body says, don't be hungry, don't be thirsty, and don't be cold. These are like the minimal necessities. It is dangerous to ignore the commands of your nature. Nothing your mom might say is do your homework. So, how to learn about the world. So the Epicureans had something called the canon of truth. The canon of truth. How to learn about the world. So there's a couple of key words here. I'm just going to read it and I'll explain it later. So most of all, we must keep our investigations strictly in accordance with the evidence of the senses. We must ensure that we keep our conclusions consistent with those things we have already clearly grasp through our sensations and through our feelings of pain and pleasure and through the mental applications that we receive through anticipations. We must always take those things we must always take as true those things that have already been clearly established. This is the method we employ investigating all new questions, regardless whether the object in question can be perceived directly or can only be understood by reasoning from what has already been perceived. So nowadays we have the scientific method. And the little graphic on the left, just Google around and you'll find that. And it's one of the images. And so we can draw a correlation between modern science and the Epicurean canon of truth. Modern science says make observations, the Epicurean says sense events. Modern science says form hypotheses, the Epicurean said form an opinion. Form predictions, anticipate. Test the hypothesis, investigate your opinion. Gather data to test predictions, observe the consequences, and compare to your anticipations, which are predictions. Refine, alter, and expand and reject your hypothesis. Adjust your opinion according to your feelings about the consequences and how they compare to your anticipations. Not so bad. Scientific method over just mere logic. Not to say the scientific method doesn't have logic as a component to it, of course, and it has reasoning as a component to it. But we all think we're so logical, we think we're also rational, but the real way to find some good truth is the scientific method. Another thing your mom might say is don't jump to conclusions. Sometimes we need to wait for the evidence. Sometimes we're biased. Sometimes we think we know how it's going to turn out. And that gets in the way of actually finding out the truth. Epicure says the disposition to grasp at one, among several possibilities when the proof is insufficient and when several possibilities may be true according to the evidence is characteristic of a fortune teller, a priest, a fool. That's what they do, not the path of wise men. If you reject absolutely any single sensation, without stopping to distinguish between the opinion about things awaiting confirmation and that in any application of the intellect to the presentations that you're seeing, you will confuse the rest of your sensations by your groundless opinion. And so you will reject every standard of truth, objective standard of truth. If in your ideas based upon opinion you hastily affirm as true all that awaits confirmation, as well as that which does not, you will not avoid error. That sounds like good advice. Doing experimental hypothesis testing.
Alex, what's PD24
PD.
mean?
So the people who discovered the Epicurean texts kind of gave them names. PD's principal doctrine. So there's the three letters of Epicurus, one to Herodotus, one to Pythagorus, and one to Menuisius. They should be read exactly in that order. And, those are the real documents that provide context to what's written in Epicureanism. And the principal doctrines are like some wise man sayings. They're not in context. They're a bit out of context. It's the last thing you want to study if you're going to try to understand Epicureanism, although most people bump to that first. You can't cut things forever. So Epicureans offered us elementary particle physics and events in the universe. And here's a little bit from the letter to Herodotus. And this is just outstanding to me. This is just amazing. Because I like to read about physics and particle physics. And the fact that they've got the basic picture so right, this is what made me fall in. I fell. It says, nature is composed of first bodies called atoms, and from them all things in the universe are generated. We also maintain that the things that we see are real reflections. We observe in the mirror as proof that particles stream steadily from all things. These image particles are emitted from all objects, and because they impinge on our eyes, we're able to see external realities and to have those impressions enter into our minds. He says the atoms move continuously for all time, others swerving. That's really interesting. I'll get to that later. And others are recoiling from their collisions. And of the latter, some are borne on, separating to a long distance from one another. And others recoil and recoil when they get a chance to be checked by interlacing with others, or else shut in by atoms interlaced around them. He says, these image particles exist. So imagine that. People thought that the reflections or the things between us and the mirror were not real. The things between us and the mirror are real. They exist. And as they move, they preserve their respective positions that they held in the bodies. They move with unsurpassable speed. That's a big deal. Unsurpassable speed. We'll get to that. What does modern science say? We can't cut elementary particles. So this is the standard model of particle physics. It is the most successful description that we have of every event that occurs in the universe that we can examine closely. Okay? There are things very, very, very far away that we can't explain in modern science. And when we broke darkness, where people talk about dark matter and dark energy and so on. But that's really just an expression of our ignorance. We don't really understand that stuff. Everything that we know that happens in the universe happens because these particles on that left column, because these particles interact. And that left column is especially important because they're kind of more permanent things. The up and the down quark, the electron, and the electron neutrino. These are the particles that work with our everyday chemicals, molecules. Everything that we deal with. That's the leftmost column. Everything here is kind of temporary stuff. And then the rightmost column is the bosons. People call them forces. People talk about matter and force. They're also related to motion. So the ones on the right column, they accelerate all the other ones. So by accelerating them away from them, we get repulsion. By accelerating them towards each other, we get attraction. Things come together by attraction. Things are separated by repulsion. And that applies to all the bodies, everything. It applies to us right here. I can take off my jacket because there's a repulsion between the jacket surface and my surface. So the particles that stream and form reflections in our mirrors are known as photons. That's right here. Impinge on our eyes, on our retinas, photoreceptor cells, and signals are sent down nerves to our brain where the signals process into perceptions and mental impressions. This is a big deal, this last sentence. The motion has a deterministic component and an indeterministic component. And in the Epicurean literature, you see they call that a swerve. And this indeterministic component is only rediscovered in the 20th century. This is quantum mechanics. We have uncertainty in the trajectory of the particles. Not everything is fatally determined. We have options. We have decisions to make. We can choose one path or another path. This is a really good book. It's one of the books that opened up one of my eyes, even though I've read so many before. The important thing is that the particles influence each other. They're not just stupid, they're just not dead. It's almost as if they are affecting each other. Well, they are affecting each other. They're accelerating each other by the exchanging of bosons. So, if we go back to this table, some people like to refer to these 12 particles on the left as matter. Some people like to refer to these as forces. Other physicists take the idea that they're all matter because they're all influenced by gravity. As far as we're concerned, they're all particles. Some of them are emitted, some of them are absorbed, some of them collide, some of them recoil. All these events, collisions, attractions, binding, all these events are in the Epicurean description of elementary particles. In the summary, because we only have the summary. Epicurus said the universe is everything. Heaven isn't separate. Hell isn't separate. The universe is everything. Everything that exists. There's no separateness. Plato was a big advocate of there being some kind of separate, other, more real world reality, and that this world was just a cheap copy. And Platonism was the philosophy of the state. It's what was taught at the time that Epicurus was in school. He says that the universe is boundless. He says an infinite number of cosmoi, or worlds, exist. There's no obstacle that exists to an infinite number of cosmoi, including those like our own, which contain living beings. Space, extraterrestrial, aliens, from some other star systems, from some other galaxies, from somewhere else. This is his way of saying physics is the same wherever you go. If we're here, there's a good chance. Besides these two things, bodies and space and properties that are incidental to combinations of bodies and space, nothing else exists. There is no evidence on which to speculate that anything else exists that does not have a foundation in bodies and space. There's no ghosts, there's no spirits, there's no demons, there's no angels, there's no supernatural, spiritual, non-material things. How do you get rid of the terror that the people had in their mind, that all these gods and fate and fortune were after them? You eliminate them by saying they don't exist. There's only physical things. Again, this is just a summary. This book is also written by Victor Stenger, a particle physicist. He's also a debunker of quantum spiritualism. He's written a whole lot of good books. And he's written a book on the multiverse. Multiverse is the new word science uses to mean everything. See? It used to be universe, but now we call it multiverse. The multiverse might have several universes in it. Except for the change in vocabulary. A cosmos is a universe. And Epicurean cosmos is a modern day universe, and an Epicurean universe is a modern day multiverse. Besides that, there's not really much of a difference. He lays it out in this book, all the details. He invokes Epicurus as well. I did not finish reading this book. Have it up. All right, so we're not going to talk about science forever. I'm going to move on. Richard Carrier, secular humanist philosopher, has some web pages, and if you Google his name and the word predicting modern science, you find his web page, and he lists a whole bunch of ways that the Epicureans succeeded in predicting modern science, as opposed to how the prophets of all the religions have failed. Here's just a few of them. The key is that this is the book number, and these are the line numbers. So book number 6, line numbers that. Book number 2, these are the line numbers. And you can go to get a copy of Lucretius's poem and check it out for yourself.
Number 2.
What are you looking at?
What's number 2? What's book number 2?
This book, 2?
Yeah, which is that?
Well, I can't remember. There's 6 books. They're in sort of order. No. Lucretius's poem on the nature of things. Lucretius's poem on the nature of things is the book that we're talking about right now on this slide. Okay, that book consists of 6 books. I don't know how you say it, like a Bible consists of many books, right? Okay. So, various topics are considered: atomism, evolution of life, a whole bunch of things, and most. All of them, I think. If you go to Amazon.com, you open up, you find a table of contents, and there's different books in the table of contents. It's one paper book, of course. So this is Richard Carrier. Richard Carrier has a PhD in Hellenic science. So ancient Greek and Roman science. He's also a secular humanist philosopher, younger than I am. He's pretty well known. And so he wrote this book. It's a friendly guy. He's a guy from our own. All right, so now we're going to get on to the more of the moral philosophy, less of the science. Things that your mom might say are Things are not always fair. And the humanists say we are concerned with securing justice. Justice must be secured. It's right here in the affirmations. What's Epicurus say? He says, there never was such a thing as absolute justice, like the Platonists said, like the Stoics said, like, I don't know what Aristotle said, so I'm going to take that back. He says, well, there's no absolute justice, but things that are held to be just by law, whatever is proved to be advantageous. Among the things that are held to be just by law, whatever is proved to be advantage in the men's dealings has a stamp of justice. Whether or not be the same for law, but if a man makes a law and it does not prove to be mutually advantageous, then it is no longer just. So, what's justice mutually advantageous? If what is mutually advantageous varies and only for time corresponds to our concept of justice, nevertheless, for that time it is just. And for those who do not trouble themselves about empty words. And the last one he says, when things that held to be just by law are seen not to correspond with the concept of justice in actual practice, such laws are not really just. But wherever the laws have ceased to be advantageous because of the change in circumstances, in that case the laws were, for that time, just and ceased to be just. So, in the rediscovery of Lucretius' poem and the Epicurean work and so on, this impacted modern Western civilization's philosophy, contract theory, and lots of philosophers whose names I can't remember right now, were affected. And that's cool. It's worth investigating. Another thing your mother might say is be nice. And humanists say we believe in common moral decencies. And Epicurus says it is impossible to live a pleasant life without living wisely and honorably and justly. And it is impossible to live wisely, honorably, and justly without also living pleasantly. You want to live a pleasant life? Live wisely, honorably, and justly. Whenever any of these is lacking, when, for instance, the man is not able to live wisely, though he lives honorably and justly, it is impossible for him to live a pleasant life. Another thing he says about virtue is temperance. So, the Platonists and other philosophers are saying that virtues were the goal. And Epicurus is saying, hey, I want to live happily. I want to live a good life. And he said, well, we should be virtuous because, for virtue's sake, regardless of the consequences. So let's say you're a German living in Nazi Germany, and your daughter's Jewish boyfriend is visiting the house, and as the soldiers come by and ask you if he's in your house, the virtue ethicists say you should say yes. And your daughter's boyfriend, what's going to happen to him? Aren't you going to suffer? Aren't you going to regret turning him in? They said yes, you should follow the virtue. And it's like, no. You can take things too far. Being virtuous doesn't help us and doesn't have peace and serenity in our lives and so on. There's times it's just not worth it. Temperance bestows peace of mind. Why are we temperate? It's not desirable for its own sake, but because it bestows peace of mind and soothes the heart with common sense. Temperance warns us to be guided by reason. Why be courageous? The performance of labors and endurance of pains and exercising at home are not attractive. Going to work, neither. Being patient, being industrious. Patience, industry, watchfulness, or that much praised virtue, perseverance, even courage itself, are not worthy of praise, apart from that which they produce. Instead, we aim at these virtues in order to live without anxiety, without fear, to be free from pain of mind and body. This is a huge controversy. There's people that say today, you should just never tell a lie. Never, ever, ever tell a lie. Sometimes it's the right thing to do. To preserve peace and harmony. To live a good life. So, you don't tell the SS soldier that your girlfriend's boyfriend is upstairs. You say, no, I don't know where he's at. And you live a happier life. Because those are the bad guys. We don't need to cooperate with the bad guys. The bad guys are not logical. They're not reasonable. They don't depend on evidence. Why are we going to play by all these rules and limit ourselves when they're scoundrels? They're not playing fair. Nothing your mom might say is be courteous. Share your stuff. Epicureans would say we are concerned with the moral education of children. So, on gratitude, he says, we should find solace for misfortune in the happy memory of what has been. Again, this is bad things have happened and so on. But remember, a lot of good things have happened in your life. And we should be grateful for that stuff. Move on. Next one, just as rashness, license. Now this is the list of vices. Cowardice, tormenting the mind, always awakening trouble and discord. So unrighteousness, when firmly rooted in the heart, causes a restlessness. Again, all these horrible emotions, by mere fact of its presence. Once unrighteousness has found expression in some deed of witness, no matter how secret the act may appear, it can never be free of fear. Fear is one of those bad emotions. Who likes being afraid? On the other hand, for those rich and intelligent, generous conduct seems more appropriate for liberality, wins them affection. Affection is good. Goodwill, and goodwill, the surest means to life of peace. The wise man who has become accustomed to necessities knows better how to share. Why? Because he's been prudent. He has a great treasure of self-sufficiency. There was a famine that went on during Epicurus' lifetime. There was just a lack of food, and he had beans stored up. And what did he do? He distributed them. He started counting the beans and distributing them evenly to all his friends, and they survived the famine. Why? Because he was prudent. He planned ahead. He thought ahead. To protect himself from misfortune. That's what a wise man does. The final one is by Diogenes Boanerges, the guy who put up that stone wall on which he wrote all of Epicurean physics. It's still partly being excavated as right now. You can go to a website and look it up, and the wall's there, and there's fragments missing and so on, but it's a real thing. So he says, great numbers suffer. Many men catch the disease from one another like sheep. I wonder what they're suffering from. Religion. In addition to my fellow citizens who are in this predicament, I desire to help future generations. For they too, the unborn, belong to us, as do any foreigners. Look at that. Not only are we thinking about future generations, not only do we care, these are social virtues. Not only do we care about us and our fellow men, but even foreigners who happen to be here. Nothing your mother might say is defend yourself. I'm not going to be around forever. Self-defense is mortality. Those who possess the power to defend themselves against threats by their neighbors, being thus in possession of the surest guarantee of security, live the most pleasant life. Remember that you are mortal. You have a limited time to live.
What's the DS stand for?
Oh, the Catholic Church found some of these. So they called it the Vatican sayings. The best guess is that these sayings, the Vatican sayings, are really from Metrodorus. Metrodorus was Epicurus' number 2 man. So, yeah, he says, so that's the Vatican saying. Okay? So the PDs are principal doctrines, LTH is letter to Herodotus, LTM is letter to Dionysius, LTP is letter to Pythagorus. We have been born once and cannot be born a second time. For all eternity we shall no longer exist, but you, although you are not in control of tomorrow, you are postponing your happiness. Life is wasted by you, and each of us dies without enjoying leisure. So yeah, I went to Pentecostal church. You're born again. Born again? Again? Yeah, second time, huh? Cannot be born again? And this is like one of my favorites right here. says, I have anticipated you, fortune, well, today we probably say misfortune, and entrenched myself against all your secret attacks, and we will not give ourselves up as captives to you or to any other circumstance. But when it is time for us to go, spitting contempt on life and on those who here vainly cling to it, we will leave life, crying aloud in a glorious, triumphant song. We have lived well. That's it. I lived well. Goodbye. Nothing your mom might say, stay away from those kids. Greed, fame, status, popular culture. So Epicurus said, some men indulge without limit their avarice, ambition, love of power, lust, gluttony. And of those other desires which ill-gotten gains can never diminish, but rather inflame. Such men are the proper subjects for restraint rather than reformation. You can't bring everybody to wisdom. Sometimes you got to take those bad guys and you got to put them somewhere far away from you. Okay, the love of money, if unjustly gained, is impious. This is against greed. And if justly, shameful. For it is inappropriate to be miserly, even with justice on one's side. Many men pursue philosophy for the sake of wealth and power, with the aim of procuring these, either from private individuals or from kings. Yeah, there was a lot of philosophers being paid for the 200 years that preceded Epicurus' life. Why? Because they were catching on with science. It could help them win wars. Just look at the series, and he talks about the peak of Greek science being around that time. It doesn't mean that the science died right away, but is it coincidental that the peak of science was right smack when Epicurus was like 35 years old? I'm not going to go there. It may be just coincidental. There was other people doing science. So, some men want fame and status. Because they think that'll make them secure.
Alex, where's the number 7 come from?
It's missing a letter. I'm not sure. I think it's either a PD or VS. Okay, so now follows a list of vices. Look again at men who are petty. Oh wait, and pay attention to these vices. These are the kind of things that your mom does try to prevent you from, you know? These are social virtues. And, okay, yeah. Look again at men who are petty, narrow-minded, confirmed pessimists, or others who are spiteful, envious, or ill-tempered, or unsociable, abusive, cantankerous. Look at those who are enslaved to the follies of love, or those who are impudent and reckless, wanton, headstrong, and yet irresolute, always changing their minds. Such fail and render their lives one broken round of misery. It's coincidental that a lot of those vices actually apply to the philosophers that he was arguing against. And for that, he kind of gave them nicknames. Okay, that's it. That's my whole talk. If you want to buy one book and only one book for $15.84, you can get it at Google, you can find it at Amazon. You can get it at ebooks. The book on the left I actually read in Spanish. It's kind of like a modern advice for people. The book in the middle is $1. And it's got all the excellent writings of Epicurus. And the same guy on YouTube offers audio files of the exact content in that book, so you can just listen to them in your car or whatever you want. There's some websites that you can visit. Society of Epicurus, Friends of Epicurus, newepicurean.com. You can find them on Facebook. And the way the Epicureans say goodbye is by saying peace and safety. Goodbye. Peace and safety. While you're on your way, while on your travels, peace and safety. Thank you.